Welcome to Altar of Fangs, a new Mythic Plus dungeon coming in 12.1. 3 bosses, each with new mechanics and some of the cleanest frontal and line attack telegraphs Blizzard's ever put in a dungeon. Now, if you weren't on the PTR this week, you haven't seen this one at all, so let's take a look at it from a healer's point of view. Quick note before we dive in, this is all PTR, so anything you see here can and will likely change before launch. Now, the first boss, Rav'i, like many midnight bosses, comes with a gating event. Same idea as Myzara, Windrunner, or Nexus Point. Before the boss unlocks, you have to interact with certain objects around the dungeon. Now, in Rav'i's case, that is 6 totems. The map here shows the 6 that you need to hit to drop the gate to be able to access Rav'i. But after the initial totem, which is free, the rest are protected by heavy enemy packs. And at least some of them drop area of denial pools that will linger. So don't tank the mobs on top of the totems, or you will bleed time trying to click the totems through the muck. Rav'i is a 3-headed hydra with a voracious appetite. You have to clear the fresh meat off of the ground, and you have to keep her off the bone piles holding more fresh meat. Let her reach it, and she eats, and she gets an attack speed buff that at higher keys can flat out wipe you. Dodge the brown circles, that's falling stalactites, but stand in the green circles to prevent her from accessing the fresh meat. Position her cleanly, manage the floor, and Rav'i goes down. But don't sleep on Rav'i as a healer. There are 2 spots where even in clean play, you'll be pouring resources. The first is her triple shot, 3 green circles, focused mostly on the DPS that tick hard for a solid 10 seconds. The second is Ravenous Stomp, significant party-wide damage. Think the mammoths in Myzara this season. Those are your moments to be ready. Most of the rest of the fight is floor management and movement, and when played cleanly, it doesn't look too impactful. Second boss, the Writhing Coil, a knot of snakes. During Death Rattle, the coil stacks a physical dot on the group. The longer the channel runs, the worse that dot gets. So to combat that, everyone gets Vine Grip in the form of an extra action button. You rope a snake and run around 10 yards out. Once enough of your team gets far enough away, the coil rips apart into 5 individual snakes. 1 fixates on each of you. The strategy here is to loosely stack the snakes together for cleave and crowd control, yet kite them around in a tight circle so they can't land bites. The snakes will eventually assimilate back together. The whole cycle repeats. Rinse, repeat, and the boss dies. Now here's the healer read, and it is a pug warning. Death Rattle is a group-wide dot that ramps with each stack. The longer the group takes to use their extra action button and run the 10 yards out, the more stacks that you end up with. So hold a cooldown for the Death Rattle channel and the Uncoil instead of reacting late. And keep poison dispels ready for anyone who gets bit by the individual snakes. Cover that, and this boss is yours. But there is one important note. The dot from Death Rattle is behaving inconsistently right now, possibly bugged. Sometimes it dropped the instant the snakes uncoiled. Other times it stuck around for a full minute afterward. We'll see what the final result is once the patch drops. But if it persists, a long uncoil will have real long-term impact on the party's health and your healing. Last boss, Zul'jan, and the core mechanic of this fight is managed intentional damage intake from the boss. On the pull, he leaps to the center and starts empowering himself with 4 beams. You stand in a beam and take a big hit of damage, but that is the point. Soaking the beam prevents Zul'jan from empowering. That said, soaking isn't free. You get a stacking debuff that persists for 45 seconds, and when it expires, it hits you for more than you can survive if you haven't cleared the stacks. So you have to clear at least some, if not all of the stacks before it goes off. Now you build a stack for every second that you stand in the beam, up to 10 stacks. You clear them by standing in his damaging abilities. But here's the catch. Eat the hits away from the center of the room, because every hit drops a blood pool that takes damage if you stand in it. The center of the room has to stay clean for the next empower phase. And you need to stagger your damage intake across the 45 seconds instead of eating it all at once. That lets your healer top you off between hits. Right now, the 9-second bleed from his Bone Slicer line attack appears to clear all of your stacks with that one ability. Big caveat, that could easily get changed or patched before launch. If it survives, I could see the strategy being everyone stacks in the Bone Slicer together, eats it, and the healer just heals through the ticking bleed. Now your job here as a healer is the trade economy. Players are deliberately taking damage to clear 10 stacks before the timer kills them. You need to pace your throughput through the staggered damage. But if your pug clears all at once in big bursts of damage intake, you may not be able to cover it without large cooldowns. The healing profile of this dungeon is not large tank busters and party-wide massive hits in general. The primary healing profile is rot with a ton of poison and magic dots, plus a bunch of heavy healing absorbs that you have to burn through. Some of those dots also have snares attached, which means that you can remove the dot by removing the snare. That makes movement speed effects a premium in here, on top of using them for the coil mechanic on the second boss. Additionally, one of the hardest walls in here is the mini boss right before Zul'jan. It throws out a ton of fixating mobs. My early read here is the mobs need to be stacked up for cleave damage, but we also probably should kite them in a tight circle to avoid damage while we're cleaving them down. Don't drag them off to Narnia, or nobody can cleave them down with you. Right now, this does feel a little bit overtuned. We'll see if it survives the tuning. Now, I'll be honest, I had a great time in here. This whole place has this venomous, decaying temple feel, and these new frontal telegraphs, these are huge wins from Blizz. I can't say enough about them. In a dungeon like Nexus Point, you can't always see the frontals coming. These, no doubt where the danger is. As a healer, that clarity is everything. I'm genuinely looking forward to pushing this one in Season 2. Now, if you haven't got on the PTR yet, I'll be dropping some more Altar of Fangs content as we get closer to the build locking, and the rest of the dungeon pool too. Season 2's coming soon, maybe as early as August. So close out your Season 1 pushes, wrap up your goals, and get ready. This one's shaping up. Until then.